Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar May 2026, where we'll have a recap of what we've been cooking in the last weeks, a little bit of insight on what's hot in the kitchen at the moment, and we will have a special guest also telling us what he's been cooking with Spacio in the last year. So here we are. My name is Franz, and I have with me Andre, our proud CPO over here. So Andre will share with us some things we've been working on in the last weeks. And for that, I invite you to share your screen.
So yeah, some of the recent updates in the platform, we've been focusing on the exports and the type of materials that's expected to produce and for feasibility studies or building permits and so on. So apart from the drawings functionality, the new item to play with in Spacio is for AI visualizations. So the new tool to play with in the platform is a visualization tool where you basically position your camera wherever you want in the scene, and we offer some preset modes that you can select between, ranging from photorealistic views to more physical model, early stage white model visuals. So super nice, cool tool to use. And so right out of the box, you can produce this type of images from Spacio. So whether you want to communicate in this milky white model more about volume, something that appears to be like a physical model. We're also experimenting with this type of ambience where you have your wooden models and it's more of a cardboard cutout and so on. More to appeal to these early stages and where you maybe haven't defined your volume or the type of architecture yet, but you kind of want to see, okay, how does the volume building type fit within the context and the area and so on. So a really cool addition. We're connecting to different various visualization engines or models. And the idea is that you can upload your own reference images and use them as like a style adaptation and so on. So as we said, we're experimenting with the bridge between physical model and what you get as a digital model from Spacio. And we're really liking it ourselves to work with it. There's also these aspects with more photorealistic ones, where we're looking here from a Spacio project inside the courtyard, where you can decide whether you want like summer weather and what type of materiality and so on the facades. And this is from a recent project as well. It's kind of like building this hybrid of the non-physical scale figures, as well as something a bit more realistic in terms of the facade aesthetics and so on.
You were showing this to us the other day, and you were mentioning that it was an interesting point where the rendering gives us a little bit more detail than the Spacio model, and then we realize some of those details are actually things we would like to have in the original model, like you were naming this parapet and the little edge gap on the roof. That gives a little nuance that makes the overall image a bit more detailed, and it's interesting to see that we'll probably take this back into the app because it gives a good impression.
Exactly, yeah. One of the bigger focus areas for us in the future ahead is adding additional control to the overall architectural aesthetics and so on, or the facade design and the expressions and so on. But it's interesting to start to kind of bridge the gap between this very early phase and the visualizations. And we will see some very cool examples from Nikolai later on also. But kind of like these type of visuals would take days to produce previously. And now that you end up with this iterative experimental mode where you can just test out super quickly and start focusing on both on the details, but also on the very like early conceptual massing studies. And super cool. It's really fun to work with, and it adds another dimension to the whole design process, I would say. But the big thing I would say from this is now from Spacio you can produce this material, so like drawings, sections, elevations, visualizations, and so on. So it's kind of starting to step into the offering the complete package for competitions, for those early studies, and so on. So
Cool.
yeah. And another additional thing is also it came from requests about balconies wrapping or exterior corridors wrapping around corners and the facades. So we see here some images of some updates in terms of we see the vaulted windows in the ground story and then those facades wrapping around. And it's one of the steps we will be taking in bumping up the level of quality in both details and also, as we mentioned, like architectural expression in Spacio. So
Finally, those recess top floors.
yeah, how much have you heard about that? We keep getting requests for it. So, but it is cool. It's stepping in the right direction, absolutely. Some small note also when it comes to KPIs and accurate metrics and so on for those top stories under pitch ceilings. We now offer presets for different countries. So here is based on it's a Swedish project, so it has a Swedish rule where you need to calculate the 1.9 meter height up until the ceiling and then an additional 0.6 meters outwards. But just to indicate how it's computed in Spacio, and we've built support for these countries to now. So Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Germany, France, Poland, and it's coming for Spain, Italy, UK, and so on. Every country has its own way of calculating it, and it's for us to make sure that you get accurate metrics and numbers out of Spacio. So that's a small note, but a big quality addition to the platform.
Yeah, now we can move on to the roadmap ahead, exactly. Things we're working on for release in the coming weeks.
Cool. So yeah, as we saw in the example of the other building about recessed stories or setbacks in the stories above, we are working on introducing an extended or more advanced facade controller. So previously we'd had the one where you click the facade and you can extrude or push the facade in and out. Now we're going to split it up. So depending on where you initiate the controller from the top story or the corners and so on, you have more control of what you're pushing in and so on. So making a recessed top story would mean that you click the middle face up here in the top and push it backwards. So again, following the kind of like the Spacio way of modeling, but more advanced capabilities, and super requested, and we're very excited to see it soon on the platform.
Yeah, here we had requests from Norwegian offices about a special minimum outdoor area requirement. That is a pain really to solve in larger projects because it's a list of things, area you need to add, area you need to subtract. And this is done very manually. And some of the rules are basically we need to include or exclude terrain of a certain slope, exclude areas which have less than amount of sun hours during a specific date, noise levels, geometric calculations as well based on the height of the buildings. So this is actually tested now by a few offices which are giving us their feedback, and we will have a summer break coming soon in July in Norway. So we think it will be released during August. Yeah.
I think we can confidently say that this is probably the most complex regulation out there that we've ever seen. It more or less covers everything you need to simulate. But it's also part of like the big step for Spacio about ensuring compliance in your projects, that you get this real-time feedback on regulations or code compliance, whether your project is feasible or not. So super useful, saves a lot of time and headache, I have to say. Then next on the roadmap also is the focus of parceling and property, like these small low density housing, also heavily requested, especially from the UK projects and so on. And the premise here is a generative tool where you define your archetypes, and Spacio helps you to divide up the land division and parcel up per building and plot and so on. So both in this aspect where we see predefined areas, but also as a sketching tool where you can modify and divide up the land and draw streets, and having this type of collision intersection between between the different objects. So drawing a street through a green area splits it up and creates a new like land parcel. So
Yeah, a lot of spatio magic in here, as I see. I've heard from users they love those adaptive, generative design approach with that objects are dynamic. So we look forward to seeing that in action.
exactly, a bit more gamification, as we very often talk about. So yeah, I think that's covers it.
I've been working on environmental analysis. So we've been redoing all the simulation panels uh, and adding a few features. So first of all, analysis run on the GPU, which make them much, much faster. And we have a uniform panel, and we've been working also to give not only statistics, but also some recommendations. So you will see a new recommendation inside here. And both the statistics that you see in the panel here, the stats on the text, the bar charts, and the recommendations are context aware, meaning I have nothing selected on screen, so it's relating to the overall project. But if I select this building specifically, you see both the text, the bar chart, and the requirements, the recommendations adapting for that specific object. And that's behavior is throughout the whole, every simulations. We also got requests for a little bit more customization from some users, especially regarding the color charts. So we are adding different color legends. So if you don't like the default one or you use two other ones, you can change that. For example, applying the solar here, swapping the min and max, and here you have a different color scale for the sun hours, for example. Also making the analysis talk also different language. So here for the sun, we can simply see what sun is from the morning, what sun is for the afternoon, and also this compliant toggle here, basically, since this is used also to evaluate precisely how much of my area receives X amount of sun. You can see clearly like the X here is like 5 hours. So everything above 5 is in green, which is easy to communicate. We also have those different updates also on the other tools. And I've made some big updates on the wind simulation tool. So we have a single direction, so you can run the classic analysis, which is a combination of a 2D simulation happening here on the disk and a more coarse 3D simulation also running in parallel. And the goal is to give insight on pedestrian comfort on the ground level, but also inform on the building facades and the building rooftops, and also to display the wind behavior around the buildings. So here I lose a little bit of frame rate while it's computing, but now everything is live. So you can see For this southern wind direction, when the wind speed is about 5 to 8 meters seconds, the rooftops are not so usable, so I could select them with the control key and see the specific statistics for it. In the settings, we also have different preview modes. So here we see the wind speed, you can see the pressure, you can see the comfort map and the different activities that the colors relate to. So here for this plot here around my two towers, most of the plot is accepted for resting activities. We just have this corridor here in the middle with high wind velocities. So you can also isolate the 2D simulation, see the wind here, and I also made a risk mode that basically colors the wind above 15 meters per second, so you can easily communicate in your project, okay, those red areas are not good for pedestrian comfort. I will make more videos on this topic, and I will let you explore the yearly comfort as well. One thing we're cooking as well is the traffic noise. So it's not really ready at the moment, but here we can see the noise map on the plot and on the building facades. And for this particular scene, you see my streets are not so correct. I've deleted a few. But you can also hover on any point and see where the noise at that specific location comes from and what's the decibel value. So this is really cool. We're accounting for direct noise, diffraction, meaning the noise that goes above the geometries and around, and reflection, which is the bounce between surfaces. So that will inform in tight urban area if your building actually has or not a quiet side, and if you comply with the basic thresholds of 55 decibels, 65 decibels, and so on. So that's for me. Invite a special guest that we have here. So we have from Poland our friend Mikolai, which is very active in Spacio, active in the Discord community, and always pushing us to develop better. Right? Welcome.
Yes, always pleasure to work with you guys. So I'm very happy. Yeah, I think
What firm you represent, where you're from, and your history about Spacio, and then we can jump into the screen share.
yes. So my name is Mikołaj. I'm working as an architect in Wrocław, Poland, for a local office called Chill House, and we've been implementing Spacio in our concept workflow for over a year right now. So quite a time to apply the tools, and yeah, I will show you how we shifted our workflow using Spacio. So
Cool.
okay, so as I said, shifting our workflow forward, including Spacio. So as I said, we've been implementing Spacio in our workflow for a little bit over a year right now. So we started in March 2025, where we tested the tool and we did our few first attempts to implement it into ongoing projects, and we tried it like a supplementary tool. But for now, we are shifting forward, and for now, May 2026, we've done over 20 concepts and projects in various scenarios and in different variations. So many options, many concepts we've done during the last year, thanks to Spacio. And just to talk about the workflow itself, the typical workflow we used and many of these new Spacio users now starts with sketches. I mean, every good concept starts with sketch, so preliminary hand-drawn sketches to catch, the general vibe of the site, to get general ideas of the concept, and to find proportions to start to begin with. Then you usually go to template. You start preparing your CAD work, you start to establishing layers, you start to build outlines of your project, boundaries, and you start drawing surrounding elements. And then, and only then, you can go to 2D CAD digitalization stage, where you draw your plans, your sketches into CAD software, generating all these grids, buildings, trying all the dimensions. Then usually you go to modeling, where you have your preliminary form in 2D. You then go to 3D, check how it looks, try different options, and then rinse and repeat. You consult with client, you consult inside your firm, you go back to CAD, back to model, and back and forth. And after you finish this preliminary phase, you usually go to detailed CAD modeling. So you prepare some precise floor plans. You try to put your building course, your communication course inside your building to establish some communication layouts. And this is to refine the project. When you have your shape, the general outline of the project established, and then yet again you go back to the model, and again you go back and forth between CAD and your 3D modeling software to input some changes and some corrections. So, and after that, you have your concept presentation, you have your final project that you present with your clients. So the way we use Spacio is to kind of create the bridge between the template stage and the detailed CAD stage. So we were able to eliminate somewhat this initial CAD and modeling stage and do all of our iterations inside the Spacio. So we still do sketches. I mean, you can surpass the paper. Paper is the best. So then we go to just create templates. So we just get our outlines of our plots and then import it to Spacio. And then we build inside the Spacio everything, and we iterate inside the Spacio. So it's very easy to create many variants and to interactively talk with client. You can share the screen with them, and you can apply changes as you speak. And after you have everything outlined, you can then go to detailed CAD phase, where you have all your dimensions, you have all your iterations and consulting done. But also you can go directly from Spacio to model. You can export the model, and you can also go directly to the concept presentation, because the visuals of the software is already appealing. So you can go with that. So you can move between the phases pretty freely, and it was great for us to implement that. And as the presentation says, the 3D massing concept and analysis on numerous variants, you can do all this in one tool. So the typical workflow for us usually begin with this clutter mess where you have all your variants all around the AutoCAD file, and everything sketched and outlined just to put into one layout. So everybody probably knows that. But this is one of our projects that we were working on in the initial phase when we started with Spacio. So we implemented the model into the Spacio. I mean, the 2D layout. We created the very simple model. We downloaded the context and did a few workarounds, and you get pretty easily pretty simple model, but you just go and upgrade. You add some details, you add some green roofs, normal roofs, you add balconies, you change the windows. And as Franz said, the AI implementation tool, so you can pretty easily go from very basic model to pretty appealing AI visualization. So I think you can easily go with that and present to your client the general idea of the concept of the estate. So
And you can show your client it's a very green project.
yeah, you can just go. I mean, this is pretty enough, but when you go with this, they know they are talking who they are talking to, so they know that you are cooking. So they let you cook. And as I said, the variation phase where you try and iterate, maybe you can make this higher, or we can make this wider, or this should be more narrow, or maybe we put the building here and there. You can easily do that. And this is also one of our projects where we did numerous variants and we tested probably every possible layout of our plot. So we began with some very basic shapes, and then went all the way around to finish up with the model that is in the center. So this is our final form of the building. And this was the great tool on our way, because doing all these variants, you still have all the stats on you. You can just simply copy the numbers, and you can simply drop them on your charts and send them to clients, so they know what every single variant brings and what every variant loses, so they can also choose which one they prefer the most. So you can easily prepare those presentation and present those stats between the variants. And also you can, as Franz said, check the environmental elements on your project. So you can pretty easily check if the sunlight is all right within your project. Are the winds directions okay? So in this very particular project, we also were able, thanks to the wind tool, to see some very weird vortexes creating in our courtyards. So we are able to implement a few simple fixes to prevent this, because little local tornadoes aren't the best neighbor. So yeah, we are able to fix that, and we are able to optimize our sunlight analysis. So we're able to optimize the layout of the building.
Are those things asked by the client, or you just give them additionally? And how is the communication around it?
Some of the things are required by the Polish building law. So we have to check compliance with sun. We have to apply at least 3 hours of sunlight for at least one room for a living. So we have to check where we have compliance and where we have a problem. So we can also do some layouts and plan our housing correctly. But yeah, the wind tool and the daylight potential tools are somewhat extra. So they are a great way of informing ourselves as an architect if we are doing a good job creating the environments that at the end is supposed to be good for a living. So this is our way of doing this. So yeah, we are checking.
Good. I'll be looking to educate also more the audience on those analysis, so they're not just cool to look at, but also informative. That's what we try to do with the recommendation panels and giving the statistics in a clear manner. Because yeah, I've seen many guys showing cool colors, but not knowing what to really do with it. So it's good that you know.
Yeah, we've been working with the analysis tool for over a year, and we've seen a lot of improvements. So I also personally requested a few of them. So I'm very glad that the voices were heard. So big kudos for that. And yeah, as I said, the presentation, you can quickly go from a very basic model to very appealing graphic presentation, and I think you can easily go with that and present, your urban environment and how your building applies into existing structure and existing context. So that's pretty great. And yeah, we've been also talking a lot with Spacio team about different possibilities and ways you can present. So you can either do this, maquette views, axonometric views, but you can also create some perspectives of the maquettes. And yeah, and Franz also asked once a question if it was possible to apply the wind analysis tool into the maquette and into AI generated image. So yeah, I definitely tried, and the answer is you definitely can. So yeah, it's also a great way to give your images this little twist that will bring attention to your project. So yeah,
Super cool.
it has been a great year working with Spacio, and we are implementing it further and further. And yeah, we are waiting for the upcoming upgrades, the integration of 2D drawing export tools. So yeah, maybe we can bridge even further.
Nice.
Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
for showing your work. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Speaking,
Thank you for
yeah.
pushing, I would say, the platform to the max, almost using most of the features and showing capabilities of the platform. So that's super nice to see.
Cool. You've been telling a lot of positive things, but what are the nightmares or the negatives?
No, I think the team can confirm that I'm keeping them busy with some bug resolving. So yeah, there's definitely a few things to polish up. So yeah, but the tool overall is pretty great, and it was very helpful because we found many workarounds for the smaller issues, and so far there weren't issues so big that they didn't allow us to work properly on a project. There's always a workaround, and we are working in a creative branch, so just be creative.
And your work is very 2D originally, coming from 3D. Is that also?
We came from a very CAD oriented workflow, so almost all of our work were done in AutoCAD. So yeah, being able to bring this pretty instantly to 3D, and working around the 3D and not having to build the Revit models or ArchiCAD models, it's way easier because you don't have to build entire building correctly. You can just try a few things. You can make some things higher, some things lower. You can make it wider, narrower, pretty easily. So you can just push pull and create your environment. And you can check that also on site, so to say, and you can see if it works. So in Revit, in SketchUp, in Rhino, it's pretty complex to check all these things. So you have to have these
Sure.
different tools, and even if they are pretty basic, it's still better than having them in this state than not having them at all.
Cool.
It's a pretty critical balance that we discussed quite a lot during development of how do you create something that appeals more to the sketching, like freehand sketching side, that you can quickly just iterate and try out things, but at the same time flirting a bit with the precision that you get in CAD tools, where everything always aligns and projects, and you're used to very like high level of precision. So I would say it's easy to fall into one of those categories, but finding the middle ground, it's been we're taking some baby steps more into the CAD precision aspect a bit more. But I think in terms of allowing for that early testing, rapid iteration, it needs to really be that super, sketchy feeling to it.
Yeah, sketch and fun and fast, and the feeling that the software knows your next step and your intention, instead of fighting with it and looking for that functionality. Like, we've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
We have two Nikolai. Okay. Okay.
I lost it for a second.
Okay, pardon. Oh, cool. Thank you, Nikolai. I'll move to the. I think we can wrap it up here. Everyone, you're welcome to share your questions in the comments. We will answer them. Welcome also to the Discord channel. We have weekly office hours where you basically can meet the founders and ask us any questions on your projects. And we have weekly design together sessions also on Wednesdays, where we design and use Spacio together, learning from each other tips and tricks. We also have webinars every last Friday of the month, so stay tuned for the next one. Ciao.